You're listening to Stories Behind the Songs with Chris Blair. For more information, you can find us on Instagram and TikTok at SBT Songs, or check us out at chrisblair.com. What's up, everybody? Chris Blair here with another episode of Stories Behind the Songs, and Cody Hibbard joins us for this week's new episode. Cody is an artist and songwriter to watch here in Music City, and just a month ago, he released his second full-length album, Long Ride in a Short Bed, featuring songs like Rollin and Set In My Ruts. We dive into the title track, Long Ride in a Short Bed, as well as Had It Been a Boy, and Cody plays a verse chorus of both of those incredibly moving songs. In this episode, we also talk about solo writing versus co-writing, learning to play on a pawn shop guitar, finding the right group of people here in Nashville who push him as a songwriter, landing a deal with Sony Publishing, and being proud of who he is and where he comes from. It was so good to dig a bit deeper into Cody's story. Make sure to give it a listen and check out his recent album release and come see him play live right here at the Listening Room in Nashville, Tennessee. Let's get to it. Here is Cody Hibbard. What's up, everybody? We're back here at the Listening Room in Nashville, Tennessee with Cody Hibbard. How you doing, buddy?
Good. How are you?
Good, man.
You all right? Yeah.
Thanks for coming in and looking forward to diving into your story and sharing it with the world.
Oh, I appreciate it.
Yeah, man.
Usually it's sitting here playing to people, so this is nice to be able to
sit on a couch
and then you hear the silence for a little bit.
Yeah. Well, man, let's just go back to the beginning. I always kind of start with, I love hearing how people got into music in the first place. So talk about your early days and what it was about music that inspired you.
Yeah, I mean, I was adopted when I was 13 months old. I was born in Seoul, South Korea, and was adopted to loving parents in Adair, Oklahoma. So I grew up out there, and country music was always that was just what we did, grew up on a 340-acre farm, and it was just country life.
Yeah.
So I never had plans of being anything music-wise, and I think some days I still wake up and don't plan on it. But Mom, like most country artists, I feel like we, started in church and sang with Mom, and I did piano when I was like 4. I probably couldn't play anything anymore, but my granddad got me my first guitar, I think, when I was like 7 years old, and I never touched it until after high school. But, we were always listening to music, and I always find it funny because Mom listened to gospel by herself, and then, if I was with Dad, he loved classic rock, but when we were all together, it was country music. And so it's been a long journey into this thing for not really being like the path, but I graduated high school, went to the Naval Academy, had a shoulder injury, got sent back to the house, and went back to college for a little bit. Thought I was gonna be a pharmacist, and said no, I can't be inside. Growing up outside all my years, and so I pipelined in the oil and gas industry for 9 years total.
That's tough work.
It's very tough. Yeah. It's good work.
Not that I've ever done it. I've just heard it's tough work.
It is tough. It ain't for I hate that word, but faint of heart, I guess. You got to want to work.
Yeah.
But after I graduated, I kind of put music away. Never really did get in a guitar. And about 2015, I was on a job and bought one from a pawn shop. The welder foreman sent me bring it into my camper, and he said, "Hey, bring that thing over. I'm gonna cook some food tonight for everybody on the job, and just bring it over." And I was like, "Well, I can't play it." And I said, "But I knew of course, 3 chords, but we did whatever we got and sat there and made fun of each other and made our own lyrics. And that's kind of how I started kind of picking guitar up and a lot of watching YouTube. And it was 2019. I was headed down to Conroe, Texas to take another job. Stopped off in Crockett, Texas, and my waiter goes, "Man, you don't sound how you look." And my buddy I was sitting there eating with, he goes, "Man, you think it's weird you all hear him sing?" So I knew 3 songs. I played 3, and they said, "Would you come back and play a little bar gig?" So I had to learn a bunch more music, and I did. And the guy there said, "Man, you should write." I started writing music, and then one thing led to another, and here we are today.
Yeah. So what year did you move to Nashville then?
I started coming up pretty much right off the bat. I knew, they always say, your best songwriters come out here and best musicians. And it is true. You find your circles and everything like that. And so I started coming out here right off the bat. My first co-write was actually with our buddy Jordan Walker.
Yeah.
But I moved out here 2 years ago, and I'm still back and forth.
Yeah, you're still not full time Nashville, right?
No, there was just too much touring going on down in Texas and in Oklahoma, and so I didn't want to fully commit. I knew I wanted to come up here and write and meet people and play out here, listening room and every other else that we can do songwriter rounds and but yeah, I've actually moved back to the farm that I grew up on. Started kind of taking care of the herd with Dad and started getting the Wagyu cows. And, my first love is always being outside.
Yeah.
And working with my hands. And I had a meeting before this, and it keeps me, I hate saying this, but it keeps me country.
Yeah.
It keeps me reminded of my roots and keeps me reminded of, I guess that little kid growing up out there. And when you come to this busy city, it reminds you every day where you come from. So it's a good place to gather ideas.
Yeah.
It's a lot quieter out there.
I love that, man. I grew up in a neighborhood, but my grandparents had 500 acres, and I spent a lot of time with them. And I totally get that life, like whether it was riding horses or, out with Grandpa in the morning, milking cows and baling hay and whatever. It's tough work, but it's, those are some of the best memories of my childhood that I have.
And it makes you appreciate, it can make you, I guess, a little jaded sometimes about what people perceive country to be, but it really does make you appreciate country.
Yeah.
And country music. And when I get done with a song, and it's the same feeling too, when I get done writing a song and it's one that I'm just like, wow, that really was the chord I needed to strike.
Yeah.
Like it's just as good as, to me, as fixing a mile of fence that, needed to be done 2 years ago, you know, and it's just something about the accomplishments and their little wins here and there. That song may not get cut or, but you got it done and you, I don't know, there's just no other feeling.
Yeah. So you get to town, you're making the trips back and forth. Walk us through, like, what were some of the challenges earlier on? And how did you lead up to getting your first deal?
Definitely talking to people, I guess, or getting in those groups and those rooms, because I'm not the type to, I don't know, I'm not the type to go out a lot. You put a bonfire in front of me, I'll get the guitar out and we'll talk and play. But, when it comes to going to Red Door, stuff like that, like, I'll go, don't get me wrong, but it's not a place where I'm just going to be like, hey, this is what I'm looking for, this is what I want to do. And, when you come from a working background, like the pipeline industry or the military, that I hate to say it, but it scares people sometimes. It really does. They're appreciative of it. They respect it, but also, a lot of people don't know anything about it or, understand it. And where, if you meet someone that was in the military or in the pipeline, 9 times out of 10, they're going to be more reserved. And sometimes when you're more reserved, you're more known as I hate to say like an a-hole or anything like that, but you get that sometimes. And then when you actually get to talk to people, like, oh, okay, well, you're
actually pretty cool.
You're actually pretty cool. You're not this, this guy that just wants to work 24/7. But it was a lot of that. I mean, trying to find those people that understood what I was doing and that understood that vision that I had, and it's not just me. It's not, I got a bunch of buddies that come from totally different backgrounds. It's the same way. I think that's the hardest thing when you first come to town, is finding that group.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say finding the group, but finding that right group that's going to understand and drive you to be the best songwriter and artist.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if Jordan was the first guy you wrote with, and I mean, other guys that you write with consistently, I mean, you've got a great group of people around you, man.
Yeah, I got very fortunate.
Yeah.
Jordan picked me up from the airport, and Jordan, and I was like, man, who is this cat? And he's given me a lot of great advice, and he's a Texas boy, and he grew up out in the middle of nowhere, out in around the Wichita Falls area. So he I have been very fortunate. I really have been.
Yeah.
But I would still say, it was getting in those rooms and getting and to find the people that understood and would go from there.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about the deal that you got with Sony.
Yeah.
So, what was that process like for you?
I didn't really shop around for publishing. I'm one of those guys that, I come from that Texas red dirt scene.
Yeah.
Cody Johnson and Parker and Randall King and a lot of them guys. And, whether there's some of us that kind of just go with the flow and there's some of us that kind of wait, and I hate to say, but try to get that leverage, I guess, but I'm kind of one of the guys that when the right time's there, it's going to hit. And, I didn't shop around for a deal or nothing, and was just letting my own work kind of speak. And eventually Sony came around and dropped time and signed a deal over there to write for them.
Yeah. I want to dive into that world a little bit because, I think it's really cool that what you're doing, what you have done and what you're continuing to do, fully independent.
Yeah.
I mean, we're seeing more and more of that today. But what kind of advice or stories do you have around doing this independently?
I've had some help here and there, and sometimes it wasn't always the best help. So, I mean, the advice I'd give to no one knows you better than you, whether that's on the songwriting aspect or the artist aspect. And I always think of this weird thing. There's Rich Froning, the CrossFit Games champ back in the day when CrossFit first came. He had this just weird diet that nobody else was on. And he used to say that nobody knows my body better than me. And he was just dominating these people. Right. And, I always think of that whenever I go into the songwriting room and especially being an artist, like no one knows you better than yourself. And honestly, fans can, smell when you're not being yourself from a mile away. And, that's probably the best advice. Just always write what you know to write.
Yeah. Always
be who you are. Don't try to alter your story to where you have to fit in, or because you're not. There's already somebody there that's doing it. Just be yourself 100%, and good things will come around.
Yeah, I think that's so great, and that's what you did on this new project. You've got 10 songs, and I love the process of kind of like what you said was kind of the meaning behind this whole album. So let's just dive into the stories behind the songs.
Yeah, I've always dropped singles and EPs from the get go. I never felt like I had a collection of body of work that I felt. I missed those old albums where it was, this is the stage of my life. This is where I should be. And for me, I wanted to put a 3-tier stage and 10 songs. And I've always said it's where I was, where I am, where I'm going. And short story side, it starts off with this. I'm a big fan of a story song. So it's called Kill the Messenger. And it's basically, when I got addicted to pain pills and when the Naval Academy and my shoulder stuff started happening, it was a failure. And as an 18-year-old kid, 19-year-old kid, you don't know how to deal with it, especially on sometimes that large of a scale. And there had been some stuff going on at the church that I went to, and kind of, I felt like I blamed religion pretty hard. And like I said, started diving into pain pills. That's where the second song comes in. It's a true story. It's called Bad Trip. Thought the cops and the repo man were at my door every single day. I was just freaking out, and I got off of them when I found out I was having a daughter. Quit cold turkey, and that's where that song Had It Been a Boy, the third song. I've always been the guy that stays true to myself and, tell somebody where to go if they try to lead me different. And so that's where song 4, The Storm That I Ride. I wanted to really get into this, show that I can write a song and tell a story with everything. So song 5 is I Wouldn't Be Here. I believe it's 5, and that's with Tony Lane and Rivers Rutherford. 2 absolute
incredible writers.
Exactly. I mean, I was just a kid in a candy store, but I also wrote a song with Mike Moberly and Tommy Carlos called Right Behind You. It's about my grandpa. He used to always tell me, I'm right behind you, just go. You know, when I was a kid and we'd go fishing, just get down there. And, you know, the flip on it, I'm a fan of just old school flips, is that, you know, I tell him I'm right behind you after he passes. And then just, you know, a couple more songs about, you know, I'm me, I am who I am, even if I have my faults. Long Ride of Short Bed with Adam Craig and Rivers Rutherford, the title track I sang with Aaron Watson. That's what life's been through a lot of downs. Everybody thinks it's going to be all ups. There's more downs than there is ups, and that's what that long ride is. And then song 10 is called Back Road to Heaven. Woke up at 6 o'clock in the morning and had that title in my head. I don't know why. Wrote it on my phone, went back to sleep, went to my ride at 11 o'clock, told the two guys I was riding with, and we ended up coming up with that song. You know, I hate to say that I'm not an emotional guy because I really don't show it a lot. The older I get, I am now. But there was 4 or 5 songs on that album that it took me a long while to get the vocals out. It was just when they say like you're eating your own words, like, you know, I have a different feeling for that because I was eating those words, and just all the stupidity that I'd done in my earlier life, and the running away and the addiction and you know, I really wanted to just have an honest record, and whether people listened to it or it was just out there for myself, I just want to put that collection together, and we got it out, and I'm super proud of it.
Yeah. You can really hear the emotion in those songs.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I think that's, you know, that's exactly what you're saying, but you know, it's those songs that mean so much to you. And I think it's so amazing that you've kind of built this full length album around that story.
Yeah.
And introduces everybody to who you are and who you want to be. And I think it's brilliant.
Yeah. You know, the thing about music, you know, and I always say this, and it sounds a little cocky, but, you know, I was just fine before I got into music. I wasn't hurting by any means.
Yeah.
And I started writing songs just to get stuff off my chest, but the more messages I got from people saying, hey, you got me through this, and that, like, that's why I still do it. And if it can be my story and people relate to it, or, you know, I don't look like your typical country artist, you know, so I get a lot of, you know, the Asian Americans that, or just really anybody that send me messages and be like, man, I didn't, you know, and I didn't even know this was a thing, but they'd be like, hey, you know, I felt almost ashamed that I loved country music. And I'm like, man, don't be ashamed of nothing.
Yeah.
And if I could tell anybody anything, whether, no matter what your color is, religion, background, politics, anything, don't be ashamed of it. You know, don't attack people, but don't be ashamed of who you are. I mean, you're made for a reason, and whether you believe, you know, it was one maker or whatever, you know, you're put on this place for a reason, and your upbringing is for a reason. And I get attacked all the time saying that I have, what is that word that they use? Like I'm confused. Identity crisis. I think that's what they try to say. Some people, my haters will say that. I'm like, man, I don't. Like, if anything, like, it's a blessing. It's a 1 in a billion shot that I got adopted to where I was, to the growing up, to the Naval Academy, to the failure, to the pipeline industry, to sitting on the listening room stage getting to talk to you. Like, there's only one reason, or there's only one path that I was supposed to go down. It ain't because of identity crisis.
Let's go, man.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This episode is brought to you by All Clear Audio. All Clear Audio is a custom and universal in-ear monitor company based in Minneapolis, Minnesota, with a storefront right here in Nashville, Tennessee, where we film the Stories Behind the Songs podcast. All Clear strives to not only be the leading provider of high-quality custom and universal fit in-ear monitors, but also leads the way in customer service and care. With custom starting at dual driver all the way to 13 drivers, there's something for everyone. Head over to allclair.com, that's ALCLAIR.com, and use our code SBTSongs to receive 10% off. Thank you for the sponsorship. We love you guys at All Clear, and we hope that everyone out there listening takes advantage of this and enjoys them as well. Well, let's dive into maybe a couple songs on that album. I definitely want to talk about Long Ride.
Yeah.
It's, you've got a beautiful story about that song.
Yeah.
So can you walk us through, where that song came from?
Yeah. I told you I grew up on the farm, and my dad's one of the best people I've ever met in my life, and always will be. Strong Christian man, and growing up as a kid, again, a lot of times, like, you don't understand why he does certain things, but he's a blue collar guy through and through.
Yeah.
I had his own trash route when he was 18 years old, and he worked for a living. And sometimes when you work, you're not always the most chipperest person, and when it's your own kid, sometimes it can be what feels like at that time like tough love. And I'm not against tough love. So as a kid growing up, it always felt like, you kind of treaded lightly. He was still my best friend, but you still kind of tread lightly what you did. And you just didn't understand because he was a parent, and you were the child. And so all that failure that happened after I graduated high school, it was almost kind of being too scared to come back home and face reality and face that stuff that I couldn't help and stuff that I was doing on my own. And I started getting home more once I started doing music, and we were riding around, and he was joking about some things. And again, you got to remember, this is 13 years down the road.
Yeah. And
I sit there and was listening to these jokes, and it's totally different as a 30-year-old compared to a 16-year-old. And, or a way he was talking to me. And I was like, man, this is, it's the realizations, like, I'm an adult now, he's getting older. And, I came back to Nashville that Monday and had a ride with Adam Craig and Rivers Rutherford. And I was talking to him and Phil Billy at, Rivers and Phil Billy at the coffee table. And I told them what was going on, and Rivers said it. He was like, man, it sounds like you took that long ride in a short bed. And I just looked at him, Phil Billy was like, man, I think, I'd like to be in that right. And we went in there and we just started talking. Rivers like, just keep talking and just tell us. And because Rivers, he feels it with his sons and, his dad and everything going on. And Adam too. I mean, we all just kind of bonded over things like that. And the song just kept coming out. I mean,
yeah.
And then second verse, it's more, I drive a lot. And again, the traveling, I graduated and 2 weeks later, I've been gone. I write songs in my truck, and I was telling them, I felt like I learned how to pray again in my truck, and there's a lot of things that have happened in that cab of that truck, and that's where, first verse I feel like was realization, and as a kind of a kid, and then second verse is more aha moment where it's like, yeah, this is why, and this is your maker, and this is why it's happening. So, man, it's just such a powerful song to me, and I couldn't wait to cut it.
Yeah. Can we hear a little bit of it?
Yeah. I'm not going to play it as good as Rivers, but. Well, somewhere in the panhandle of Texas, on a midnight ride, just me and my old man, we finally found a few long-lost connections. And we learned sometimes the bridge you burn still stands. We talked about our old friends and our exes, and agreed we both had dreams that just need plans. I thanked him for the tough love and the lessons, and he finally admitted I'm a man. Well, Lord, I'd love to take that ride again. 'Cause when the future's too far for the headlights, and the rear view's too dark for looking back, and all you got in your life is the glow of those dashboard lights, and whoever's riding with you in that cab, yeah, you really get to know what's going on in someone's head on a long ride in a short bed.
So good, man.
Thank you.
So good.
Man, Rivers is just, Adam too. I mean, they're just such powerhouses in me. And
well, you are too, man.
I try. I mean, that record, I wanted to write you know, I don't know. You get in a write and sometimes you hear a line and there's a lot in that one. I was just like, I could have thought of that if I would have just done it, you know. And Rivers, and I've wrote with Adam a few times, and a lot of them guys, like, they've really been able to draw writing feelings out.
Yeah.
And you know, I used to I feel like I hate to say it, but I feel like, you know, we got away from that for a little bit in the writing process, and we're really, really hitting it back again hard. And for me with that record, like, there's so many words that were in the record that I felt like I didn't say. So I was like, man, I got to do some solo writing, because I'm a huge fan of Alan Jackson and Toby Keith and all them guys that, you know, Dirt Cheap just went #1 with Josh Phillips, and the fact that the man sit down and wrote it by himself, it's just, I miss that.
Yeah.
You know? And so 3 of those songs I did write solo. And I'm a firm believer of that too. Like, I wouldn't say it's the best advice, but I tell writers, go home and write by yourself. Really write, because you're not going to find who you are as a writer. You're not going to find, you know, I YouTube a lot of stuff too. Just, you know, instead of Spotify, like, I'll go watch Tony Lane at a songwriter deal, or Rivers and just really go in and find that person who you are and be able to write it. And then if you can, learn another process. You know, it's all learning and feeling, and it's just, I don't know. You can't, I'm a freaking gearhead about writing. I guess that could be a word. I love it. I love hearing it. I love writing it. I love watching a story come together. So
yeah.
What
did your dad say about that song first time you heard it?
My dad is not an emotional man, so he will make you laugh more than anyone you probably know. He's got kind of a drier sense of humor, but he just looks at me and goes, "That's a good one." Or he'll come up and be like, "Yeah, I like that song." So we played Kane's Ballroom, and I feel like he just doesn't know what to say sometimes. But I was a little under the weather, and I probably should have canceled the show, but I'm not the type to cancel. It's like, you get what you get, and just understand that I'm giving you my all. And so my voice wasn't 100%, and my dad come up to me after the show and goes, Mom was telling me, of course, she's like, "Yeah, you did so good, everything like that." And Dad goes, "Yeah, I tell you that wasn't your best show," and then just turns around and walks off. I was like, okay.
Yeah.
But it's good to have someone like that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Keep you grounded.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. What's another song on that album that I know they're all so special to you, but if we had to dive into one more song on that album, which one would be your favorite?
Hadn't Been a Boy by a mile. I mean, again, you don't know you're addicted to stuff until you're in the moment, or until you're past the moment, honestly. And you know, it's one of those things where you feel like your mind and your body needed it, and you know, it was readily available for me at my younger age. And I've always been a smart, sharp dude, but, you know, I feel like after all that kind of stuff, like, there's a lot of times where I'm stuttering or like my mind's not 100% clear. And to be able to do that on just a couple years that I felt like I was really hammered to pain pills, you know, who knows what the road could have been if I would have just kept being a degenerate and drinking on them and doing all that kind of stuff. And my daughter is by far one of the most important people in my life. And you know, I hate to say the cliche, she saved me, but she did. I really feel like she did. Because again, I don't think like I used to, not as quick like I used to be. And I do attribute it to pills and a little bit of old age. So getting older, but yeah, hadn't been a boy for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, that touches me. I've got, my oldest is 12, and my life, when I found out that, you know, was going to have a baby, my life was like that, you know, not pills, but, you know, I was in early days of building the listing room, and I was working nonstop. Many days I didn't even go home. I just would sleep on the concrete floor because I had to be up in a few hours and be back, and was partying a lot.
Yeah.
You know, I was going down a dark road just to kind of, just to keep going, really. And it's very similarly, you know, I found out I was having a girl, and my life completely changed. And I was like, okay, I've got to be a dad.
Yeah.
And I just kind of quit everything cold turkey and was just like, okay, I got to grow up and do this. And
And I got buddies who are pretty straight laced, and even them, that same way. And it's really having a kid. I got, boy moms and boy dads. They're always like, oh, well, you would have. I've got 3 boys too, so
Yeah.
I've got 4 kids, and my boys, I love them to death. They're the highlight of my days usually.
Yeah.
And would I've quit? More than likely. I mean, it is. It's just taking that responsibility
Sure.
and just understanding you're going to be a parent and you have lives to take care of. But there's, again, I got buddies that are straight laced that have daughters, and there's just nothing like being a father to a girl, because it's just such a tender heart that I don't know. I've only got a few years left in this music game, because if somebody breaks their heart, I'll probably be in prison. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't mess with a Navy guy.
There you go. Yeah.
So walk me through the write when you did that. I mean, that's got to be a super emotional one for you.
Oh yeah, that one. I had that title on my phone for a long time, because I've always said that, because my oldest boy looks just like me, big old head, and Asian and everything, and because my third one, he's pure white boy, and it cracks me up. They're awesome, and it's cool to see, and how they just bond and everything. But my boy, just always getting on to him because he's a boy, and so I always said that there's a joke, kind of like, had it been a boy, like, it'd been one of them things like, oh, he's good, it's kind of, and I see my buddies like that, oh, he's good, he's a boy, and so I always had that in my phone, where it's like, had it been a boy, but on a different level for the addiction and everything. And I went to my ride with Rose Falcon and Kyle Schlinger, and it's one of them things that's still a weird thing for me, being that vulnerable with strangers.
Yeah.
But Rose and Kyle, like, right when you get in, like, there's 2 of the best riders in town, in my opinion, over at Curb. And, man, they just make you feel at home. And, Rose is married to Rodney Atkins, and they have, they got 2 boys. And I told her, I was like, hey, I got this title. Feel like this is right and the right time to write it. And it was. I mean, it was, we didn't rush it. We took a couple writes on it just to make sure we had it right, because we knew we needed to make it special. And, but they just started saying things, asking me like, well, what would you think would be different? And I was like, well, I think it would have been easier. I understand a boy, because I am one, and at the time of having, I definitely was a boy, and it just comes together. And it's one of them things too. It's like in baseball, when I was playing baseball, when you hit a home run, right? Everybody be like, oh, well, it didn't feel like you swung hard, right? It felt smooth.
Yeah.
Same thing with like a song that is going to be like, it doesn't feel like it's almost a blur. Like you just came out so easily and so smooth that it's just like, oh yeah, that's what that Had It Been a Boy right was.
Yeah. So you knew as soon as you finished, it was something special.
I was trying to hold my tears back.
Yeah.
The whole time we were writing it, and it's just, again, it's just such a song that I opened up for Dylan Carmichael in Little Rock a couple weeks ago, and I wasn't gonna play it, because when you're playing acoustic, you just, and they don't know who you are quite, his fan base yet. Like, it's a struggle to find the set list. And I was like, you know what? And I've always kind of been this way. I don't know why I was trying to act different that night, but I was like, you know what? I've always played what I wanted to play, and I might as well play what Cody Hibbard would play. So I played it on stage, and man, I was just freaking the wreck. And I got through. I wasn't bawling like a baby or nothing, but it's still one of those songs that it's hard for me to listen to at this moment.
Mm.
It's not, but it is. So,
you think you can get through a little bit of it right now?
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Try it. Here we go. Well, had it been a boy, my hands might not have been shaking so bad, staring at my future through that glass, with no looking back. Had I been a boy, I'd have known exactly what I was supposed to do. I'd have raised them up to follow in my boots. I known all the rules, but had I been a boy, I would have never learned how Take a minute and slow down. Put a flower in a halo brain. Look at everything a different way. I would've never learned to talk sweet or live up to what she sees in me. Pink or blue would've been my pride and joy, but I wouldn't be the man I am had I been a boy. It's tough, man. Like I said, I don't know. I just look at country and country music different. I don't care what it sounds like. Everybody's like, oh, that don't sound like country. Or I get that too. I had a guy from Colorado try to tell me I sound like whatever, bro country or whatever. I don't care. I write country music because I've lived country. I've lived a country life. I've lived not only and it's not just country people that go through addiction, but I mean, I've lived the life I've lived a hard one.
Yeah. And
we want to pay respects to Merle and Waylon and Johnny Cash and Paycheck and all them good boys. You know, they did it too. And I think that's what drew me to country music, to bring this all back to your first question. Like the hardships. I ain't even had no hardships yet, besides getting up at 3 o'clock and helping dad on the farm. Like, I didn't have any hardships at 12 years old.
Yeah.
Now but it still drew me to country music, listening to, you know, anything from The Dance to Hard Working Man to, you know, all that kind of songs. And that's why I look at country music so differently than other people. Again, I don't care what it sounds like, because not everyone's going to be Zach Top playing 90s style, you know, and not everybody's going to be Luke Combs playing more, in my opinion, what I call like a blue collar sound. You know, I respect it all. I just, you know, I want the lifestyle to match with the words, and I want the words to mean something.
Yep.
So
I think that's so smart. I mean, if you were playing stuff that, you know, wasn't you, that you thought everybody wanted to hear, at some point they're going to figure that out.
Yeah.
You know, like you're putting music out that is true to who you are and what you believe. Yeah. And love it or hate it. Like that's, you gotta be you. That's
you great. Know, and the thing that makes me the most mad about, and I say this all the time, everybody wants to be such a diehard about what a country music should sound like, right? And it kind of got us off lyrics for a long time. But what makes me the most mad is, you know, and I don't want to call anybody out, but, you know, most of those people don't understand the lifestyle. But two, we were all as kids bumping Mike Jones to Nickelback to, you know, again, my dad listened to classic rock, mom listened to gospel music. Like, and that's usually the first question in every interview I've done. What's your influence? Well, all kinds of stuff. Yeah. You know, I could play a Nickelback song, you know, at any show, and I guarantee 99% of the people listen to it and they're going to sing it back.
Yep.
Right? So we talk about influences and stuff like that these days. Well, that was us growing up as kids. You know, I mean, when Jason Aldean dropped Dirt Road Anthem, you know, and Brantley Gilbert and all that, like, that was it back in the day. They're like, holy crap, like, this is, you know, Colt Ford, like, they're rapping in songs like, dude, this is me, I'm country. Yeah. Like, I don't know. It always got under my skin about the sound. But again, I think the biggest thing that pissed me off about the way a country song should sound like is we got away from the lyrics. Mm-hmm. And I think we need to get back, because the songwriter's not respected enough. And I try my best to talk about my songwriters, my co-writers and stuff like that. And because I'm proud of a song. And every songwriter should be.
Let's we've only got a few minutes left, but let's dive into that a little bit, because, you know, it has changed so much. Mm-hmm. And you know, what kind of advice would you give a new songwriter coming to town with the way things are now versus, you know, how they were even 10 years ago?
Yeah. I mean, it's just understand that the music industry is always going to change.
Yeah.
It really is. And honestly, I say all this stuff knowing that my stuff probably never will be on the level of a Post Malone collab, you know, and you got to be grounded. But at the end of the day, like, I understand too, like, I'm happy with that. I'm okay with that. I still got a 340-acre farm to go take care of my cows back at home.
Yeah.
Or I've got a loving family that I go back to the house. You know, I've looked back on the last few years of my life and understood where I was at one point. Understand who you are. Again, understand that the music industry does change. Just don't let it dishearten you. Don't let the process, don't let the industry, don't let anything else dishearten you. Just write what you know to write. Again, understand that it may not be the most popular choice, but do it. But always be accepting to co-writer's advice. Always be accepting to constructive criticism.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I had that same guy that said I was bro country. I said, I kind of looked at his profile and I said, I'm more country than you would ever be, you know? And I just like to clap back every once in a while. And he goes, oh, geez, you said on stage that you didn't care. And I go, no, I don't care if you like the song. I don't care if you like my lyrics. I don't care if you like my production. But you're not going to tell me I'm not country. You know, just understand who you are and just, again, don't get disheartened by anything. Just keep moving forward.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about advice for you? If you had to go back to 8-year-old Cody, what advice would you give yourself at 8 years old?
Just get ready.
For?
What this life's going to do. Get ready to be absolutely destroyed. And I wouldn't change one thing. I wouldn't. Yeah, that's all I'd tell myself. Just get ready for it because I wasn't.
Yeah.
But also, I hate to say that advice because if I wasn't ready for it, then I wouldn't be who I am today. I wouldn't be where I'm at today.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, but what I love about that is like that is any of the haters out there that say you're not country, that is like that statement right there says you are.
Yeah.
Because that's, you know, anybody that grew up on a farm or working blue collar, like hard working people, you know, would probably all say all the things that were tough, but would also say, I wouldn't change a thing because I learned every step of the way.
Yeah.
And that's just that life.
You know, until I guess to really hit your question, when, you know, as an artist too, like you can do the most social media you want, or you can do as little as you want. The fans and the haters are always still going to perceive who you are based off the songs you drop. Whether it's the production or the lyrics or stuff like that. Because again, I know guys that go and buy their cowboy hats and the day before a show,
yeah,
but have been sitting in the city all day but they sing traditional 90s country. I'm not against it. It is what it is. They got great music, you know what I mean? But I also know guys that play more pop country. They're some of the most country dudes in this town. So again, it's let's just get back to the song. Let's get back to the writing and just, I don't know. I mean, that was the thing about Post Malone's album. I listened to every single song and the writing on it was just, you know, granted you had, of course, Luke Combs and Ashley Gorley and all some of the best writers in town.
Sure. You
know, Taylor Phillips and, but the writing and the stories behind it were very, very, you know, kind of blew me away. I'm not gonna lie. Like, it sounded extremely, I don't know, just puts you in that moment. It's like, okay, this is a good country album.
Yeah.
You know, so.
Love it.
Yeah.
Dude, thanks for being here.
Well, thank you for having me.
Yeah.
I always enjoy being able to talk and get a little weird around cameras, but, you know, I enjoy talking one-on-one. So.
Yeah. Well, we always love having you play here. And just everybody out there listening, Long Ride in a Short Bed is out now. Make sure you go buy this music. Yeah. Of course, you can stream it anywhere you listen to music, but, you know, support the artistry and the songwriters. And the way that you do that is by buying music. So please do that. And we'll put links to all of your stuff here in the liner notes. So everybody can follow you and go see you at a show.
If not, Google Asian country artists. I'll probably pop up.
I love it. You've been listening to Cody Hibbard. I am Chris Blair. This is another episode of Stories Behind the Songs, and we will see you next time. Thank you for listening to another episode of Stories Behind the Songs with Chris Blair. Make sure to give us a follow on Spotify if you enjoyed this episode, and make sure you click that notification button so you can keep notified when new episodes come out. We release brand new episodes every Tuesday, and you can find us on YouTube at Stories Behind the Songs with Chris Blair or anywhere you listen to podcasts. Don't forget to send us a comment letting us know what you thought of the episodes. We love getting your feedback, and share this with your friends. The more we grow, the more that we can keep doing this. It's our mission to bring you all of these great stories behind the songs from some of Nashville's most iconic artists and songwriters, publishers, producers, everyone in between, and a lot of my great friends. We love what we do, and we love sharing their stories with you. We appreciate all of the continued support. Thanks also to all of our sponsors, and we will see you all next week.